So the first thing we want to do here is to initialize this credential or this vault right here. Okay. And instead of doing it inside our password manager, we want to initialize it in our user interface, because this is where our main program is going to run, not our password manager. So let's copy this, and we can put this as the very first thing in our user interface class. So now that that is done, we're going to first try to create a credential, okay? And to create a credential, we're going to use this add credential method. When a user clicks the save button, we want to collect all the information in these three boxes and then add it to our list of credentials. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go into our design view again. So we can either double click on this save button right here, or we can go into event, and then where it says action performed, we can click that. So now whenever that save button is clicked, we're going to execute whatever code we have in these brackets. So we're going to collect three variables, okay? And they're all going to be string variables. We'll call them description. And the description is going to be whatever the value of this is. So the description field. So it's going to be description field. Dot, and then get text. And then we'll do the same for the other three fields. Okay, so now that we've collected that information, we need to somehow pass that information to this method right here, which is to add credentials, okay? So currently this method, this add credential method, the only input is a array list or the vault, okay? But instead of just that input, we need to add the three additional inputs, because now we're no longer just using the prompt here to collect the user's input. Instead, we're passing those inputs into this method, and we're going to populate it that way. And all three of these are going to be string type. This is going to be equal to the description parameter. And we'll do something similar for the rest. Now we're going to say password manager dot add credential. So we're going to pass in our current vault, and then the description, username, and password. So we have an error here only because we're using the old method here. So we can either just comment this out or just delete this whole entire portion. We don't need this anymore. So just so that we know that something happened, let's just print out credential added. So let's test this out. Hopefully we won't get any errors. Okay, it looks like nothing happened. And that is because currently our main method is set to run this right here instead of running the main method inside our user interface. So let's fix that. So to do that, we're just going to hit this drop down over here, and instead of defaults, we're going to click customize. And then right now our main class is pointing to password manager, But let's hit browse and then change it to user interface. Select and then click OK. So now if I was to run this, now this opens up. So now let's add something here. So in this case, I'm going to add a Gmail credential. And then we'll hit save. Okay. So we can see that the credential here got added successfully. So once we hit save, it'll be nice to also clear out all the information in here so that we know that something happened. So let's write the code for that. So if we go into our code for our user interface, right after the credential is added, we're going to set these 3 text fields to blank. So we're just using the set text method and then providing an empty string. That should clear out whatever is in there. And we'll do the same thing for the other 2 objects. So let's test this out. I'll just call this Hotmail. And now if we hit save, as you can see, the text fields are cleared. So we know that something actually did happen. And we also see that the credential was added. So we're adding all these credentials, but we don't actually see these credentials. So we don't even know if these credentials were actually added somewhere. So let's use the display all to display our credentials. So before we do that, there's one thing we forgot to do. So with our add credential right here, when we're adding our credential, this method is going to provide us with the updated vault. Okay. And right now we're not doing anything with the updated vault. So let's assign the updated vault to our vault variable here. Okay. So just say vault equals, and then whatever this method is going to return to us. Okay, so now let's move on to displaying our credentials. So ideally, the time we want to display the credentials is when this program first launches. The first thing that we want to do is display the credentials that we have saved, or the list of credentials that we have saved. And also whenever we update the credentials, we want to refresh that list and display it again. So first we're going to put that inside our class constructor, because that's the first thing that gets run whenever we create a class. So we're going to put our display all method in here. And this is the display all method that is coming from the password manager. So now let's run our program and see if this works. So as you can see, it works just as we expected. We currently have 3 different credentials inside our password vault. But instead of displaying it here, we want to actually display it here.